talking about today is, as I wrote, it says, knowing Yeshua in the now. Okay, in the now. And that's important to me. That was the most important thing to me, actually. That's why I'm here today, is because I wanted to know God. And it was a young man looked at me and he said, you know, Aaron, if you don't know Jesus, you can't know God. Of course, he said Jesus. He was a Southern Baptist from Texas. And he was an officer that I served with in the military. And I'd kind of pushed him away for quite some time, but he finally got to me with that one phrase. You can't know God if you don't know Jesus. He said, now I say Yeshua, and I like that, but there's nothing wrong with the name Jesus either. And then I've been to Ukraine and witnessed and worked there, and they say, hey, so who knows, you know? It's just as long as they're talking about the same person. Now, what I start here with is the historical Jesus. Knowing Jesus is an important thing, and that's what you and I are all really involved with. We have an opportunity to know God personally. And what most people are familiar with is obviously the historical Yeshua. Now, even as a non-believer and as a young Jewish kid growing up in Cincinnati, I was sort of familiar with the historical Yeshua. Actually, the elementary school I first went to, some of you grew up here, Roselawn, you know where Roselawn Elementary is? I don't think it's there anymore. But most of the kids there were Jewish, probably 80% or 85%, because Roselawn was you were either Catholic or you were Jewish. And those poor Protestant kids, they'd have to go to school on the Jewish holidays when nobody was there. I can remember one time we had a young lady that I knew, her name was Kathy McGugan. Well, she didn't go to school that day, and we all went to school the next day, and the teacher said, Kathy, I know you're not Jewish. Why weren't you here yesterday? But she figured, what the heck? Nobody else is there. But we were all familiar with the historical Yeshua. We would hear things about Christmas, which was a really nice holiday. We hear things about the crucifixion. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you turn TV on Sunday morning, and particularly if it was around Easter, and you're watching something about the crucifixion. And I'm thinking, oh, that's terrible. The only thing was they never mentioned that he was Jewish, ever. So, you know, knowing him is so much more than just knowing the historical Yeshua. So next slide, please. Once again, we're familiar with the crucifixion. Most of us were. I don't know where you grew up or what type of atmosphere you grew up in, but if you had friends that weren't Jewish, sooner or later, you were familiarized with this part of the historical Yeshua. Okay, now, as I said before, they say Jesus, and I like the name Yeshua too. I'm in a Messianic congregation, I'll try to stay there. But people are familiar with this, and they accept this, sort of. Lately, I've been watching things on, of course, Facebook has everything on there, but now there's people doubting, did Yeshua really live? You know, I can't believe that. I think the historical figure is pretty well established, even among non-believers, that he existed. Next slide, please. Then there's the Yeshua of religion that we might be familiar with. That's still not knowing him, but there's more to it than that. I mean, we knew what he was, a really genuinely wonderful person. He was almost perfect, they'd say, or perfect. They would say that he was so kind, he was so generous. But this was the Yeshua of religion. Now, they say that his mother, some of the religions would say that she was a virgin till she died, never had any children. And they would say things like she was the Virgin Mother and she has some sort of holy, sanctimonious lifestyle. And then she raised her son. And so, as a Jewish kid growing up, well, I kind of knew the Yeshua religion. It's just that I wasn't the least bit interested. After all, I believed in God. And there's not more than one God. And this kind of gave me the distinct impression there were two gods. Okay? So, knowing the Yeshua religion was just as confusing, or at least not in any way liberating and informative any more than the historical Yeshua was. Next slide, please. What is your now? Okay, what is your now? I'm asking you, where are you now with regards to your relationship with him? Because that's what we're here to talk about. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they put it on a lampstand so it gives light to all in the house. Now, that's what you are. And that's what you are because you know more than the historical Yeshua. You know more than just the Yeshua of religion. You know him personally because that's what it's all about, folks. And that's why we're not supposed to just dwell. Even those of us who have that personal relationship, sometimes we can get a little distant or removed. And that's just not something that's ever supposed to happen. Ever. He is with you wherever you go for the rest of your life here. And then, of course, then we get to be with him in heaven. After all, he's going to prepare a place for us, he said. And if I go to prepare a place, I'll also come to receive you unto myself. That gets better than that, doesn't it? Now, that's the knowing of Yeshua that I'm interested in, okay? But this is what happened to you. He didn't set you under a basket. He's put you on a hill. And so people can see you. And the people can see that there's something different about him. He knows more than just religion. He knows more than just history. He knows God. Okay? That's why I'm here. If that man hadn't showed me that, I wouldn't have listened to anything he had to say. Next slide, please. Therefore, if anyone is in Messiah, he is a new creation. The old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. Now, I like this because it says all. All things have become new. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't drag all that old nasty man around with me that I was. And I thought I was a pretty good guy, too. My mother told me I was wonderful, didn't she? Of course, she thought that of my two younger brothers, too, and so I didn't believe her anymore. But the point is that you're new in him. So if you're new in him, why can we in any way focus on the historical? Why do we in any way focus on the religious or the traditional Yeshua? We need to focus on him in your life now, at all times. Next slide, please. Okay, I can't always read this. After you heard the message of the truth, the good news of your salvation, and when you put your trust in him, you were sealed with a promise, the Ruach HaKodesh, sealed with a promise. Now, that means so much more than I think in this day, when he wrote this, than what we understand it to be now. We think of sealed, and we think of licking an envelope. That's what I think of when I think of sealed. No. Sealed is so much more than that. You know, if you have a building, I've seen people seal buildings even, you know. They dedicate it to something or they close it. You're sealed. You are set apart by God, and there's a mark put on you that people sometimes can see, but I know the spiritual world knows it's there. The enemy, they know it's there. They can see it. You are separate and different. It's not just a matter of a historical person that you are. It's the fact that you are now with him in the now. I don't just dwell on what happened with the Lord. I'm dwelling on what he's going to do with me now. Okay, next slide, please. Who are you? Who are you? I put that picture up there. I said, are you all on your own? Can you shoot? Are you a quick draw? It's got to be so much more than that. It can't be just about you and what you are. It's about him and what he is in you. Next slide, please. Jeremiah 31:33. You know, I put that up there because I didn't want to type it all the way out. And I thought I'd get somebody to read it, but you don't need to read it. You've already seen it. And the reason I put this up there is because this scripture opened me up. And I didn't read this till after I was a believer. And I thought, oh, this is already there. How come I didn't learn that at Temple Shalom? Well, because Temple Shalom didn't believe a whole lot. That's why. It was a Reformed synagogue. They're not there anymore either, by the way. They tore the building down. But the point is that all things are made new. He makes you new. He says he's going to write his law on your inward parts, and they shall all know me. Not know, there's that word again, K-N-O-W, from the least of them to the greatest. In other words, it didn't make any difference about your education or anything else. You had the privilege of knowing him, and God was going to make that. It was a new, he said he was making a covenant, not like the covenant I made with Moses and in the Ten Commandments. This was different. And that covenant is so grounded in knowing him now. You knowing him now, not just his history. Everything. Next, please. You know him now. Well, who are you? Excuse me, I want to be able to read that. Don't you know that your body is a temple of the Ruach HaKodesh who is in you, whom you have from God, and that you are not your own? For you were bought with a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body. In other words, as you're walking around every day, there's something about you that's different than the rest of the world. Why? Because of the Yeshua in the now that lives inside of you. Not the historical, not the religious. The now, the real Yeshua. And I like the fact that you're not your own as well. You know, the Bible says that we are the redeemed. You know what redeemed means? Buy you back. He bought you back. He owns us. You know, I have the privilege, of course, of speaking in a congregation. Every once in a while, somebody says, are we going to talk about tithing? I'm thinking, I can't talk about tithing. He owns everything I have. Whatever he wants is his. Why give it a percentage? Okay. But that's because I know him. That's because you know him. And you talk to him. And he's a part of your everyday life, or at least that's what we have to make him. That, believe me, there's plenty of days we're all sitting there thinking, I got too much on my mind to do anything else. You know, and I don't have time. I missed my, I was in a hurry getting here this morning, so I missed my devotion. Not good. Now, that means I'm going to have to read 2 pages tomorrow instead of just the one. Next, please. Well, Yeshua as part of your workday. I told somebody else here when I graduated from college, where I went with Joel and David and Jeff. Jeff was already in seminary and at Trinity. And I thought, I want to go to Trinity too. And I got all the paperwork and I'm filling it out. And suddenly I really felt very strongly God say, no, you get a regular job. I'll use you like that later. The only problem was I didn't know later meant 65. Okay. But a regular job. So that's what I did for 40 years. Let's go to the next slide. There you go. You can't see it. That was my business card. I was the sales manager of this certain territory for a metal service center. I traveled and sold brass, aluminum, copper, stainless. But you know what I really sold? Me. Okay? I really sold the company. I sold the dependability. I sold its ability to give you what you needed at a reasonable price, although most people knew us as the most expensive in the business. I guess that doesn't really matter, does it? But the point is this, when I walked into the office, that's the card I gave them. Okay, it says Aaron Bortz, sales representative, blah, blah, blah. But when I got inside, you know who still went in with me? That's right, Yeshua had to go with me because he's part of my now. He's part of who I am. I'm the one that signed the register, Aaron L. Bortz, Central Steel and Wire Company. But when I walked in there, he walked in there with me. And I thought to myself, well, is this really this? You know, I wanted to be a pastor or a leader, you know, in a congregation. And here I am selling metal. And a lot of times I just go in and solve problems. Oh, there's a problem here with this, or you billed us for too much. And yeah, there were problems. And I went in there with the Lord, any way you look at it, always. And after a while, because some of these people I got to know, And I'm sitting there and they're talking to me, and finally one of them looks at me and he says, my son's in the hospital. And I look back and I said, he is? I said, well, I'll have to put him on my list. And they look at you with, what list is that? I said, well, it's my prayer list. And that person from then on, if he was still at that company, he always talked to me about something spiritual of the Lord. He asked me what I was doing. He found out that I was a Messianic Jew. He thought that was kind of interesting. And most of the time, they were Roman Catholics, you know. I worked for a company of Roman Catholics, okay? That was owned by a Jewish guy, the company was. And I was the only Jewish salesman he had. If you went to Notre Dame, you were going to be a vice president someday, especially if you played football, okay? And they'd all look at me after a while and they'd say, what kind of a Jew are you? And I'd say, well, I'm a Jew like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they didn't know they were Jewish. And Paul, when I threw him in there, that really surprised him. But the point is this, is that he goes with you even on your work day. And you can get that opportunity to share him with you. But are you thinking about that? And you have to, you really do. The Lord is with you no matter what you do. Next slide, please. I'm probably taking too much time here. I'm not doing too bad. Wherever you are, okay? How many here work in this, what we call secular jobs? Oh, you do? Are you the only person in here that does one? Okay, but we got, now some, you know, you do a lot of different things in that secular job. Now, if you're working in a factory, well, you eat lunch with everybody, don't you? And they look at you like, did you bless your food? That would get some attention, wouldn't it? Because nobody else is doing that. When you have a problem in a plant or a factory, there were lots of times. I can't tell you. See, most of my job really was solving problems. I don't know why, but that's what it was. And I hear about this one problem. I think, ooh, I don't know what I'm going to do with that one. How am I going to solve this? And then you know what I do? Oh, can you imagine this? For the steel business, for maybe a stainless steel rejection, I'd pray to God about it. I say, Lord, I need your help in my job as well. I need your help. I need your, and you know what? I got so many answered prayers that by the end of the week, I even forgot the problems. God was really good in that regard, and he will be involved with you. He wants to be involved in every aspect of your life. That's why I think it's so important to say now, the Yeshua now, because that's what we all have. Okay, next slide, please. Whatever you're doing, doesn't matter what you're doing. Okay, now I was in a sales executive, you know, and I had my master's in marketing and management, okay? But, you know, I got a son-in-law that's a plumber. He's got his master's in plumbing. You know, he also went to college to become a music minister, but he couldn't make as much money raising a family as a plumber. Now he's got his own business. But you know what? He gets all these high ratings all the time. Why? Because he takes the Lord with him wherever he goes to. And when he does the work, he wants to do it the way he do it for the Lord. And I love that. And that's him. That's just him. I think my wife will even agree, okay? How about that? And he's a plumber, master plumber. I know plenty of people that are believers that are doing all kinds of work, but yet you can still see him in the work. Yeshua. You can still see him in the person. You can still see him in what's taking place around that business. And it's amazing. I can't, it's just, it's very interesting, especially when somebody walks up to me and they would say, are you a Christian? Of course, I'd say no. No, I wouldn't. I'd say, yes, I am. I'm a believer in the Messiah. I'm a Messianic Jew. Then I get a big discussion going. But people still ask you, well, what is generating that asking? I do believe it's the Spirit of God speaking through you and being with you and accompanying you wherever you go. Next slide, please. Who are you? Okay, this is, I love this. I can't read it. And if the soul of a believer be the temple of the Spirit, it is not the place of the man's labor, his shop, his bank, his laboratory, his school, his factory, the temple of Jesus Christ, where the Spirit of the man is at work. I don't know if you've ever read this book. Anybody here ever read George MacDonald? Okay, thank you. Curious Awakening. It's a wonderful story. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. But this is what he was trying to say. This is a book, mind you, it was a murder mystery, and yet he's throwing all this theology at you. Now I said, yeah, I did say Jesus Christ, but I don't mind that. The thought is unbelievable. And if the Spirit of God lives inside of him, then that man's business, no matter what he is, shop, bank, laboratory, his school, the factory, the temple, a dedicated place for the living Messiah. That's your body. That's your body. That's your work. That's you. And I've been in businesses where you can tell that real quick. And I'm sure you have too. Not always, but with us, with those of you in this room, you would think we want to see that in you. Next slide, please. Okay, with your family. Oh, with your family. Well, we send the kids to church, and they get over all their teaching there. Sorry, that ain't the way it works. Dad, you teach those kids. Mom, you teach those kids. That's where they get their first exposure to the Messiah. I remember when my daughter was, I thought she was 9, but you said 8 the other day. And she said, well, I want to get baptized. And I thought, wait a minute. I was 22 years old before I knew the Lord, and even then I waited a year to get baptized. And how does she know anything yet? Well, I'd like to think that she was raised in a home that shared the Messiah. Of course, we took them to services every week and all that. And that was part of our life and part of our decision making. I'd like to think that she saw that and wanted to make that part of her life as well, your child. Now, the other one was sitting in the back seat on the way home, and she says, I don't want to be baptized. Well, she was when she was 13. Both my girls are serving the Lord now in the congregations that they attend. And I'm very, very, very happy of that. I could say proud too. I guess we're not supposed to say that word, but I am. And they've raised their families that way as well. I just hope but they still hope that works too. Next slide, please. Talking in the now, Yeshua. Well, what's that, by the way? What's he doing? He's praying, okay? He might even be struggling with something. But the point is, who does he go to? He goes to Yeshua. I mean, the world is trying to give us all a bunch of ways to solve our problems, okay? As I said before, I got my master's degree in business, and we go to marketing classes and all kinds of different courses. They're all trying to show you how to solve your problem, okay? This is how you do this. This is how you handle this situation. I'm sorry. The best way to handle it is you go to God first and you talk to him about it and get his advice on it. Sometimes he'd take care of it before I even got there. That's because I was living with him. Now, believe me, I wasn't Mr. Perfect by any stretch of the imagination. If you got a chance, you can talk to my wife, you'll find out real quick. Not even close sometimes. But the point is, he still did it anyway. He still took care of me anyway, and I'm so grateful for that. And he's still there with me now. I just had some issues, and I had to. Well, I go to the prison on Friday nights, and I give a message, and I had to leave after the service with and go see somebody in our congregation because they were struggling, really struggling, and I didn't want to do it. And God said, no, you have to go. And I went, and I prayed about him solving the issue. And he did. He did. He took care of it before I got there. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop praying for that person. Not even close, because the problems are going to pass up again or pop up again. Okay? But you're talking to Yeshua in the now. Now, this, of course, is in your congregation as well, not just by yourself, but in your congregation. Do you have people that you pray with? Yeah? I can remember when I was a brand new believer, I'd go over to Jeff's basement. Every Friday night, we had a men's prayer meeting in there. Marty Chernoff and Jeff and Gerald Grubbs, and I can't remember who else. Well, of course, your father. I mean, he was something else. And of course, the only thing we did get to see, though, is his poor mother would have this kitchen full of all kinds of vegetables, everything that he bought downtown at the market. I got a good deal on it, remember? He'd get great deals, and she'd have to clean it all up, but he brought all this food home. Oh, this is great. Al Adler was a really wonderful man, by the way. And Jeff didn't just come by himself. Okay. And his mother was terrific, too. But, you know, we do things with others. And I learned an awful lot there because I could pray with other men. I was only 23, 24, 25, and they were in their 50s, but I could learn from them, and I could learn from their walk with the Lord, the now Yeshua that was living in them now and before. So this is important stuff, this working with people here. Okay, go ahead, next one, please. Okay, now what are you? And we need to talk about that just for a second. You are our letter written on our hearts, known and read by everyone. How about that? How do you feel? Do you feel good about that? I mean, have you ever done anything in your life where you think, well, I hope nobody read that? At least I know that happens with me. But this is not what the word says. The word says you're a letter. And people see that from you, and they can learn about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob from you. Not just the Bible. You're a writing too. And let's see what he's doing with your life. And how's that impressing on people and drawing people to him? Because there are people that you might not even meet or know that you've influenced for God's sake. Okay, next. Thank you. And I can't read that one. That's a really good scripture. Who wants to read that for me? Thank you very much. Once again, you're bought, you're owned. Remember that now. When it says redeemed, it just doesn't sound nice. It means something. You're his. Okay? And we all need to act like that and be responsible in that regard. People are looking at you. And what I really want people to see when they look at you is another Jewish person. Yeshua HaMashiach. Next slide, please. Okay. Oh, rather the Jew is one inwardly, and circumcision is of the heart. The Ruach, not in letter. His praise is not from men, but from God. Well, that's what we should want. We want that. It's easy to want praise from men, especially when you work for a living like so many of us do. And I do have a few things at home, little certificates of appreciation. But in the long run, I want to please him. That's where I want to be. Okay. And you know what, though? You please him, other people are going to see that. They're going to like what they see in you as well. Next slide, please. Uh-oh, is that it? Okay, there you go. Practicing the presence of God. I got to read this. That think often on God by day, by night, in your business, and even in your diversions. He is always near you and with you. Leave him not alone. I like that, don't you? That's Brother Lawrence. You're familiar with him? Good quote. And he's telling the truth. Don't leave him alone. Your business, whatever, your diversions. You play golf. Please act like you're a believer when you're playing golf, even if you miss the stroke. Okay. Believe me, I know. Oh, it's terrible. Okay. But we are always praying that our eyes may behold greatness instead of praying that our hearts may be filled with it. And that's really what we need to be doing, filled with his greatness. Not ours, his. G.K. Chesterton, you familiar with him? Oh, gosh, you can learn something from these other guys, and they don't want to be Jewish for you to learn something from them either. Okay, next. Okay, now, when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and figured out that they were laymen without training, they were amazed. They began to realize that these men had been with. Thank you very much. I want everybody to be able to say that about each one of us here. There's something different about him, and they've been with Yeshua. I love that. I mean, they looked at Peter and they looked at John, and they thought, well, what? A couple of fishermen. Am I correct? You know, hey, fishermen. I don't think, I've never known a guy that did professional fishing. It's bad enough the amateurs that do it. And although my wife's a very good fisherman, by the way, in case you heard. Yeah, really good. But the point is, they looked at them and they were amazed. They said, they knew they'd been with Yeshua. And that just speaks of what they learned from him. And it speaks about him. And that's what you and I are supposed to be doing. Speaking to other people about him, even in our life. You don't have to just stand there and give them a tract. Just live it. Next. Okay. Be sensitive to the needs, when possible, of your audience. But Paul cried out with a loud voice, saying, don't harm yourself. We're all here. You know what that was. They thought that these people were, the jail cells were open, and they thought they'd all escape. And of course, if the guys were heading up the prison, they'd kill them for letting these people out, the guards. And Paul was worried about them. Now, this is a little, maybe I stretched a little bit to put this one in here. But the point is that we've got to know who we're talking to and who we're standing in front of and who we're trying. And I'm not talking about just how you're sharing, you know, I'm going to give him a tract, I'm going to do this, you work with these people, okay? The man that led me to the Lord was probably the smartest man I ever met that took the Bible seriously. I don't know how many of you are in the military. He graduated first in his class from OCS. He was drafted out of graduate school, and he was smart. He was smarter than anybody I'd ever known or worked with. And even if he was a Southern Baptist, okay, and from Texas. It's just, I had to listen to him sooner or later because he really was what he said, what he was portrayed to be. Okay, and he's still that way now, by the way. And I every once in a while I contact him, and he's been a strong witness in the world. He didn't go into ministry, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying he was a president of some company here and doing this, and I'm sure he led people to the Lord there. Okay, all right, but we're all here. Next slide, please. Know your neighbors. But, okay, I can't read that, but, okay, well, everybody's your neighbor, aren't they? Everybody. And that, I'm not sure I've always welcomed that one, but Yeshua tells me to. We know that. I've read that enough. I've read that in the scripture enough. Who's your neighbor? If you got any brains at all, you know he meant everybody's your neighbor, and you're going to treat him like that, okay? All righty, with him. Next. Okay, the Bible tells us to love our neighbors and also to love our enemies, probably because they're the same people. Okay, I love, this is one G.K. Chesterton. We make our friends, we make our enemies, but God makes our next door neighbors. Okay, that's it's true, and that's what people are going to see. You there. Next, please. I'm getting close here. Okay. What we practice, not save at rare intervals, what we preach is usually our great contribution to the conversion of others. C.S. Lewis. And then more is caught than taught. I don't know if you know who Ken Goss is. He led the Youth for Christ chapter in Louisville that my kids were involved with when we first moved down there. But he told them more. You know, he knew that more is caught than taught. You know, that's what these kids are watching you for. And they catch plenty from you. Are they watching you carry Yeshua with you wherever you go? But I like that part first. Lewis says, you know, what we practice, how we live our lives is a whole lot more than what we preach. And quite frankly, when your life, you're preaching. Okay? When you're living your life out, whether it's at work, school, play, wherever, you're still preaching. You just don't know it sometimes. Next slide, please. Okay, readiness and availability. Instead, sanctify Messiah as Lord in your hearts. Always be ready to give an answer to anyone who asks you a reason for the hope that is in you. I love that scripture. And we all need to be ready. How do we do that? Well, we stay close to him, okay? He'll give you what to say. You know, some people think, by the way, there's nothing wrong with memorizing scripture. Believe me, there's nothing wrong with it, even though I'm not very good at it. But he will give you what to say. I mean, you read the word of God, and I believe the Spirit of God imparts that word into your heart, whether you memorize it or not, it's still in there. You know what it says, and you know what's in there for you. And he gives you that reason of hope, and people will see that. People will see that. Okay? Okay, next, please. Okay. Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. We must be ready to allow ourselves to be interrupted by God. I like that one. We must not assume that our schedule is our own to manage, but that it is to be arranged by God. Thank you very much. I think you've all heard of this guy, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Okay, I think we have a debt for him, but I just love that. And he's right. He lived his life like that too. If you've ever read, I read that Dietrich Bonhoeffer book. It must have been 600-700 pages. I think I read 3 other books before I finished that one. But he lived his life the way he was supposed to. Okay, next. We're almost done. The returning Yeshua. Well, everybody's going to see that, and they're going to think about, did I listen to Aaron? Or did I, not me, but Michael or any of you here? Because he's coming back, okay? He's coming back, but you know what? He's still here now. He's with you. Wherever you go, he's with you. Because that's exactly what it says. The Spirit of God lives in you. That's exactly the gift that God gave us. And that goes with you wherever you are. And that's him. That's amazing, isn't it? To be able to practice that and to preach that. Next slide, please. Okay. There is meaning in every journey that is unknown to the traveler. Once again, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. What then is Apollos and what is Paul? Servants through whom you came to trust. And in each as the Lord gave, I planted. Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. And that happens in our lives as we live with him in the now. Okay? He comes to live in you, and then he's the one that gives the increase. And God can use you. God can use any of you. I can't imagine any one person here that can't be used by God. I've seen people that used by the Lord in strong ways, and if you would have told me this was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed you initially. You know, you try to think of yourself as a good understander or evaluator of a person's abilities and skills. Well, let me tell you something. When God gets in a hold of somebody, you won't know how to evaluate it. He does. And you'll see him work in that person. Next, please. Okay, just as you sent me into the world, so I have sent them into the world. Now, who are we talking about? You. He sent you into the world. I don't care whether you live in Canton, Akron, Cincinnati, Louisville, Columbus. He sent you here. Are you living out what he sent you to do? Are you even familiar with what he sent you to do? Well, that's your job to find out and to have him reveal to you what it is. He'll do it. He'll do it if you ask. That's all you have to do. My problem is I don't sometimes ask as often as I should. Okay? That's like every day. All right? Next. Almost done here. Okay. As Christians, we are tempted to make unnecessary concessions to those outside the faith. We give in too much. No, I don't mean that we should run the risk of making a nuisance of ourselves by witnessing at improper times, but there comes a time when we must show that we disagree. We cannot remain silent or concede everything away. C.S. Lewis, God and the Doc. You ever read that before? That's Lewis that's put that down there. And a very wonderful guy. You just think of him as with the Chronicles of Narnia, but it's, ooh, all of a sudden I'm loud. What happened? Oh, have you been able to hear me? Yeah, my wife usually says, "Get a microphone." At the congregation, I'm getting up there to start speaking. Do you have a microphone? I used to think everybody could hear me. Who was it? Danny was in here a minute ago, and he knew I had that big mouth. Well, he's gone now. But okay, let's go on next one too. We're almost done here. Okay. In the same way, let our light shine before men as they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. I want them to see him and you. And I'm hoping they can play this song that I wanted to play for you. And because then I'm done. Okay? Isn't that wonderful? All right. Can you try it? In me, okay. Let them see in me. Let them hear when I speak. Let them feel when I sing. Let them see you. Let them see. Let them hear you when I speak. Let them feel you when I sing. Let them see you. Let them see you in me. Let them see you in me. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And quite frankly, I've had that happen. And it's really very helpful to know that God is right there with you, ready to give you something to say that's worthwhile, more than I would be able to come up with. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, wow. Okay. Yes? You're not alone. And sometimes. Yes. Yeah, that's an important thing, and I agree with you. I agree with you. I've been in places where some people start jumping on me because of the fact that I've revealed that I'm a believer, and all of a sudden all these other guys shoot off. Well, I think he's right, and I know what I believe the same way he does. And it's nice that God places you in those positions sometimes, and you learn. There's nothing wrong with learning most of the time. Okay, anybody else? Well, thank you. Yes, sir, Jeff.
Right. We're afraid of to react. We're actually going to be a lot more open. The Spirit of the Lord really do some preparatory work.
Yes. Yes, I've had that. I think if we witness and we try to practice sharing our faith and the truth that we know, and the now Yeshua that lives with us, that you run into that. It's amazing, and I don't think about it sometimes. You don't think about it going in ahead. Okay, in the business that I was in, you were trained to handle problems. Okay, and they'd show you everything. So you think that you have everything ready to say if you have an issue or situation. But in this situation here, sometimes you walk in, you think, well, these people aren't interested in hearing about the Lord. Well, maybe somebody is. And he's going to open that up for you if you're listening to him. You listen to him, not what your heart, maybe what your own mind is saying. Okay? Was that helpful? Anyway? Yes, Michael.
So Spirit had evangelism call. say the waitress like that.
Uh-huh.
And opens the door. Basement where he says that. First it appears, begins to with it. I've been with him. I don't know for who does the same thing. And we all share the Lord. We all do. People seem to have Betty Lambert. And
Oh, yeah. Okay.
sitting there, and she was, I asked somebody, can I? Really, there's so much more possibility than we open our eyes up enough to look at it. It doesn't phase us. These people, they get on that wavelength, and they get amazing results. I'll go out to lunch. Tell me about somebody she shared with them. And there's a lot of fruit.
Right.
I think there's so much more ability than.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that the Bible talks about gifts, and we all have different gifts. And I do believe that God, in order for the body to function properly, gives people different gifts. But that still doesn't mean we shouldn't also get the opportunity to share Him being with us now. But on the other hand, it's wonderful to be able to recognize and have people like that with you, because it just gets things going, it gets the ball rolling so much faster. Yeah, well, that's good. I think it's good when we all get challenged, that's for sure. Yes, sir. Exactly.
Revelation.
There's a lot to that, okay? And when you hear that, when you hear somebody else's testimony, it has to make you question yourself. Yeah. Okay.
Sharing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yes?
I hear you, Bill.
Okay. Get a microphone, Betty.
Well, come here and get the microphone. I'll give it to you. Come here.
I was just saying that I had me pray over her husband. And I remember so much pain. Katie, let me pray. No. I was on a point. I started to cry. I felt like no voice. And the Lord showed me a vision. I thought it was like, because I thought it was yeah, came a sheep. The Lord, what is this?
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Jill.
I have 3 grandchildren that two of them are twins, and one is only 15 months older than the other, so they're right there. You take them out, they're used to talking about the Lord at home, and they just talk naturally to people. That's some of the best witnessing. You should go out with your kids and let them talk.
Okay, good. Yes, Jeff?
Yeah,
I'll get you.
along the line, Eddie shared, I remember years ago, my aunt had a heart attack, which, so my mom and I went down, and I was concerned, I was concerned about her life. So I asked her on my own prompting. I asked her if she would like to pray with Messiah. She said no. So we talked about something for a while. Then the Holy Spirit asked her again. This time with his brother. She said, yes, I would. Same visit. And she prayed to receive the Messiah. So, so sometimes even if somebody hates, from Danny, Ron, there, I think, Michael, I think, prayed him to receive the Messiah, right?
Yeah, that was one of the, I'm not sure that was the stuff.
Right.
He asked him, would you like to, he went through and led him to the, Danny was one of the people who followed the vision, that was led him to the
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember.
But he asked, and then he just felt led to get, Michael got up from the table to go, and then said, would you like to be born again? What did you say? That wasn't long after that, right, Michael?
Yeah, it wasn't long after.
Yeah. Ron, one more. We got one more here.
I just don't know about them, but I do. I mean, she changed. Out of fluid. Will you pray for me?
Wow.
Sure. If you, I always get my Bible. I was like, no, I don't know the Catholic. Part of the Catholic is all here.
Okay.
So when you talk about the witness.
Well, let me finish up here, okay? Nobody was going to make me walk an aisle. Nobody was going to ask me, well, you do believe, and I was going to answer yes. Which nothing wrong with that, but there's just me. I was stubborn, and I wanted to do it my way. And but I do remember one time, and I already knew the Adlers and the Chernoffs. I'd attended a little study that was in the basement that Marty led. And, but I didn't, I thought, well, it's very nice what they're doing. And then I remember, it might have been a year later, I was trying to get a ride somewhere and this man stops in his car, and I get in, and it's your dad. It's Al. Now, Al didn't stand there and say, do you want to believe in Yeshua? He didn't stand there and witness to me or give me any scripture that I had to memorize. He just gave me a ride. And there was something about him that stuck in my mind. There was something very sweet and generous and quite frankly, God-inspired that stuck with me, and I had to deal with that. I didn't want to deal with it real quick, because that meant I'd have to do something about it. But it was still there, always, and still there now in my life. I remember the atmosphere that was in the car, and what he donated out through himself and the life that he led, and the type of person he was, sharing Messiah. Okay, so we all have that in us, possible. We all can get that opportunity to share people like that. And what we're doing is we're sharing Yeshua in the now. Listen, thank you so much for listening and being there. It was a real privilege, okay? Okay, good. Pardon?